everybody, thank you for watching this video. I want to just give you a little more clarification as it relates to the leadership orientation. I wanted to make sure that we have the right motives for serving in ministry. I think it's very commendable, and I think it's very honorable for you to decide to want to get involved with ministry. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything in decency and in order so that we can really build the kingdom of heaven the way we're supposed to. And I have a few things here that I wanted to just bring out as relates to just our motives and things that have us going in the right direction, because you want to do things the way God called you to do it. Otherwise, there's no real reward. Okay. Some of the things and it's in your manual that I'm going to talk about on the next video, but you just want to make sure that you don't be a person that complains, because when you go into ministry, you're going to have a lot of things you're going to see, and it's very easy for you to complain. At the stage of our church, according to this video, we're still building, but as the time, as you coming in, you may see a few gaps, and you know what? The Lord is allowing you to see a few gaps, but how you address them needs to be done decency and in order. You don't just, not saying people will do this, but you'd be surprised. You don't just shout out, this is wrong, this is wrong. You develop a solution. I'm one of those people where you don't want to bring a problem unless you have a solution. So you don't want to complain or tolerate even gossip from other people. You don't want to misuse your position. Some people, they only want to get involved because they want the church to promote their business, or they want to get some money when they go through a hard time, or they're trying to get a spouse, or political reasons, or counseling. They want to try to counsel people without the right proper steps. And so just make sure that going forward that your agenda is to help build the church and help build these auxiliaries, love people and love God, and basically that's it. We will, for people who have authority when it comes to ministerial gifts, you want to make sure that you are pointed out properly. If you jump ahead, you can risk being talked to and addressed, because we do have certain things in our leaderships called CIA, which means confronting issues appropriately. And everybody gets a CIA meeting. There's not a meeting that whenever you're in trouble, you get a CIA meeting. We do it periodically just to address issues, because everybody comes in with different baggages and different things and different mindsets. So we have to make sure, if we're going to do things in decency and in order and be on one accord, every now and then we may have a CIA meeting that just confront issues. It's a one-on-one meeting to kind of confront issues. Let me tell you one thing about when it comes to serving, to make sure that you're doing it the proper way. There's 3 C's that I always address when it comes to serving, or when it comes to being a proper leader. The first C is character. Do you have the right character for what you're applying for? You don't want to just jump in something just because you have nothing to do. Do you have the right character and temperament? Can you deal with people? Because in ministry, you have to deal with people. So if you're rolling your eyes at people and sucking your teeth at them, or you think you're better than them, or you got a religious spirit, or you're new to the faith and you want to just, rebuke people or whatever, your character needs to be developed first before you do that. So we don't want people to have the wrong character. You're just coming in, you do anything you want to do. You don't want to come on time. You don't want to work with everybody. You don't want to answer emails. You just want to do your own thing and have your own spotlight on you. That's the wrong character. Okay, we don't want that. We would recommend you probably sit down for a while before you get involved with leadership. The number 2 is competence. Can you do the job? Are you just doing this and say, I got the right character, but do you have the competence? Can you deliver? Because some people, they can talk a big game, but they can't deliver toothpaste on a toothbrush. So you want to make sure you can deliver on the things that you say you can do. Now, if it's some of the things that's new to you, then be humble enough and say, hey, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Okay, we want people who are willing to learn, but you got to have competence, because you can have the right heart to do something, but if you can't deliver the skills, we really can't use you in that capacity. Maybe we can use you somewhere else, but if you want to join the praise team, but you really can't sing or hold a note, then you have to be willing to know that or let somebody come and tell you. If somebody come and tell you that, hey, we need you to work on this, don't get offended, because we want to see where you fit. Now, you may have the right heart to just do it just because, but you want to have competence. Can you make rehearsals? Can you sing the notes? Can you, if you're an administrative person, you have the heart to want to administrate, but can you type? Can you send emails? Can you have grammar? Do you have the competence to do what's necessary? And the third one is classes. You have to complete the classes. The classes are on a schedule. You have to start it at the right time and end it at the right time. You don't want to go past the deadline and say, well, I'm almost there. No, you have to do it in the right time. So we have these classes to help produce the knowledge base so that you can be an effective leader. But a lot of people wait till the last minute to complete the classes. Make sure you pace yourself. Make sure you answer the questions on the quiz appropriately. So you have to make sure that you're in the right standing. So it's character, it's competence, and classes. That's the three things that I look at as it relates to a good potential leader: character, competence, and classes. Okay. And so let me read something out of 1 Timothy chapter 3. And I think it's going to help you out. The Bible talks about 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. Here is a trustworthy saying: if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, sets his heart. In other words, there are certain callings that you can apply for. There are certain things that in the church, you don't have to necessarily have a calling from God where the burning bush came or the Lord spoke audibly. No, there are certain things where you can look in a ministry and say, you know what? I can help right there. And the Bible talks about if you have your heart set on being somebody in authority or an overseer, then you desire a noble task. If the Lord put on your heart that you can help here, that you can fill this gap here, the Bible says you have that's noble then. Then he says, here are the requirements. Now, an overseer or a servant or a leader or a minister, they must be, first thing, above reproach. What is above reproach? That's respectable. They got to be an honorable person, somebody who is not wishy-washy. They're not saved one day and then they cussing and fighting the next day. No, they're an honorable person where they are stable. Now, you're going to have different times of testing that will kind of shake your, faith, but are you a stable person? Can we lean on you? Or will you break under pressure? Are you an honorable person where, if offense does come, are you rolling your eyes and sucking your teeth and then ready to leave and ready to, tear down everything on your way out the door? Are you an honorable person, okay? Above reproach. In other words, do you have a measure of control on your own self? Are you drawn to the things of the world and led by the works of the flesh? That's manifest, it looks at works of the flesh as manifest. In other words, do you have certain character that's out there that makes people like, wow, I don't know about you. You can't be wearing short skirts and saying you're a minister. You can't go up there having a bad attitude and say you want to pray for people. You can't have, a bad reputation with other people and say you are somebody who leads in a church. Now, as you go toward leadership orientation, the first stage is a labor, so you're basically just serving, okay? So you're not so much a leader, you're just serving for that year, okay? But in that, you still got to be above reproach, okay? That's what that means. And then it says, above reproach, a husband of but one wife, or, husband or wife. If you're a female, then you're married to your husband. If you're a wife, you understand, if you're a man, you're married to a wife. Basically, you can't be shacking up. You can't be sleeping around with somebody who's not your husband. If you're single and you're celibate, then that's great. If you're serious about dating, make sure you have boundaries. If you're a single person and you're still burning with lust in your flesh and you just gotta lay down with somebody, you probably don't want to apply for this. Now, I know everybody has issues, but there are certain things that you cannot, if you're going to be in front of people, you got to be above reproach. You have to be somebody who's stable. If you're celibate, stay celibate. If you're dating, that's good. Provide boundaries, but don't be living with each other, sleeping with each other, you know, acting like you're married. I know the society we're living in, it says everybody can do it. Well, I'm telling you, according to the Word of God, we do not like that. We do not condone that, and we don't endorse that. We only follow what the Bible says. And so, if you're married, be married. If you're single, be single. But have your standards, okay? Because that's some of the things that can hinder a ministry. You know, God will not allow us to move forward if we are knowing that our brothers or sisters in Christ are sleeping with each other in the church. Okay, that's what happened to the church in Corinth. All right, husband of one wife, temperament. In other words, do you fly off the handle easily? Do we have to watch what we say around you because you about to flip out on somebody? You can't be like that if you're going to be a person in authority. Now, if you're working on that, that's great. But you have to make room for us as leaders to address those issues. Okay? If you're like the kind of person like this is just how I am. Y'all gonna have to just like it. Well, you probably don't want to apply, because we will confront issues of things that we see in a godly way. The Bible talks about if you have a fault with your brother, go to your brother. And that's what we do. Okay? Self-controlled. Are you somebody who can control yourself? Are you somebody who is burning with certain passions when it comes to different things? Now, I'm thinking about cigarettes and drinking and smoking and going to the clubs. The Bible never says that smoking a cigarette will send you to hell. However, it says all things are lawful, but they're not expedient. In other words, they may not be against the law from the Bible, but is it hindering other Christians? You may have a cigarette in the privacy of your own home because you're still struggling with that. I get that. You may have a drink, you know, in your own home or by yourself. It's totally different if we see you on social media just lighting it up, drinking it, going to the clubs, taking pictures of these shots. It's totally different. That you got to have some type of self-control. Everybody has issues, but do those issues have you? So self-control is one thing. Respectable. Are you a respectable person? When people hear your name, do they think good or do they think bad? That's what we look at. How do people view you? You can be a saved person and you can love the Lord, but people don't respect you because the way you come off to people. You hit people with rocks and stones. You have a Pharisee religious spirit. You have, you straighten in that, swallow the camel. Or you're hypocritical. You see everybody else's faults but yours. You jump down on the big sins and you wink at the little sins. Are you a respectable person? When people hear you or hear about you, do they kind of tense up, or do they say, "Oh yes, that person is great. That I'll write a recommendation." Or do you have a good reputation? Are you respectable? Hospitable. Do you care for the needs of other people? Are you concerned about somebody who's hurting? Does it hurt your heart when you see somebody that's down? Now, you can help. You may be in a position to help. You may not be in a position to help. But are you a person who is willing to say, we got to do something about this? Can we plan something? Or are you a type of person who are touched with the infirmities of other people? Hospitable. People who can't help themselves. Do you have a passion to want to help them? Are you selfless? We have things in our church where we may need extra hands, and what if it doesn't apply to you? What if you say, well, you know what? That's not going to affect me, so I don't want to be involved. Well, that's selfishness. We need people who are willing to plug in wires for sound cords, stack chairs, or hand out water bottles or blankets, or hug people, or just different things that make you go out of your way. Are you hospitable? Okay? Able to teach. Now you can grow in an area like that. I'm going to use this as an illustration. Are you able to learn from other people? Are you the person who have all the answers? Or can you take instructions? Are you prideful? Are you somebody who's haughty? Do you look down your nose at other people? Are you able to teach? Are you able to train? Are you able to pass down your knowledge to other people? Or do you just hold it in yourself and say, this is my group, this is what I do, I'm not going to train anybody? You got to be able to pass things down and teach somebody else, because at this church, we look at people who know how to raise up an apprentice, raise up other people in order for them to advance. We don't want a whole bunch of people that's in leadership and nobody is following them. What makes you a leader is the ability that somebody is following you. So are you able to teach, but also are you able to learn? That goes hand in hand, two of the same coin. Okay? Not given to drunkenness. I touched on that a little bit earlier about, are you a person who don't mind, dropping it like it's hot when you go into the clubs and you up there on social media and everybody, you're embarrassing the church because you just got to be you, okay? It's different being drunk. You may have a drink. Me personally, I don't drink, but I know there are some Christians out there who still have a glass of wine, and they don't have a problem with that. Here's the only thing I have concern on is, are you a drunkard person that all you do is just drink all the time? You up there bragging about how you got drunk and you got hangovers now. Things like that. You're going to the extreme. You have one wine glass or something like that, and you're controlling yourself. Again, I don't drink, but I do know the difference between somebody who is a person who's just drinking and somebody else who does, a glass every now and then. You have to let the Holy Spirit convict you. However, when you're in part of a church family, everybody's looking at you. All eyes are looking at you. The whole church, everybody's looking at you. So you have to bear the infirmities of the weak. You have to have a standard if you're going to be in a position of leadership or serving in leadership, okay? Not violent, but gentle. Are you a violent person? Do we see that you're, y'all pray for me because I got to go to court to get this misdemeanor off my record? Are you a person who always got violence going on? You're mixed up in violence? You got domestic violence in your house? Police being called to your house every day, every other week? Children are scared to go to sleep? You beating your wife or beating your husband? Cussing everybody out? You're a violent person? Everybody is walking fear when you're around? We're not looking for that. We want people, according to these scriptures, that are not violent, but they're gentle. They are compassionate about other people, and that they are concerned about the welfare. They're a gentle person. I can come off strong in some areas, but I know how to be gentle as well. And some people don't know how to find a balance. They go from one extreme to the other. Not quarrelsome, argumentative. Somebody who's a brother or a sister of discord. They jump in cliques and they spread the gossip. They spread discord. They spread division. That is not the kind of people we're looking for. Agents of Satan. That's what they are. They're agents of Satan who Satan has planted in the house of God, and the wheat and the tare grow together. We don't want people who already know they have an issue with other people and they coming in spreading that little yeast and that sickness, quarrelsome. They starting havoc. Because we will address it at CIA meetings. We will. Not a lover of money. that speaks for itself. But are you a person you only get involved because you want us to promote your business or to invest in your property or invest in this? And the moment we say no, you got an attitude with it. Are you just a lover of money? You're not here for the kingdom. You're just here for your own money, here for your own business, here for your own stuff. You can smile, you can say the right Christian words, but the bottom line is you're just here for you and for your business, and so that you can be more prosperous. And yes, I believe in prosperity. I believe the Lord wants to bless his people. I don't think it's his will for people to be broke, sick, and defeated. But some people come in with that in mind, but they actually have the God of money. They just want to just build their own pockets. Has nothing to do with the kingdom. Has everything to do with, what are you going to do for me? A lover of money is not the kind of people we are looking for. Okay? He or she must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him or her with proper respect. Are your kids going crazy all over the place? Do you have the kind of character where your kids respect you? Okay? If the church has to say, wow, somebody needs to grab these kids because they're all over the place, then you're not the proper person to be in leadership. Your first ministry should be those kids at home. Okay? And so, especially if you have smaller kids, you have to make sure that you have a good handle on those smaller kids. It's not up to the church to do children's ministry. I mean, if we do, that's fine. But you have to make sure, you as a leader, that your kids are, I mean, I know kids going to be kids, but you have to make sure that they're not out of control. They're all over the place. You're over there talking, and your kids are running up and down the aisle and kicking over tables and kicking over chairs, and they're hollering at the top of their lungs, and you pretending like you don't even hear them. That is wrong. And we have seen people who don't have the fatherhood or the motherhood to address their own kids. You know, so your kids need to sit with you. If you were in the sanctuary, don't have your kids somewhere else and give that responsibility to the ushers. No, your kids need to be sitting with you, especially if you know they are a little outgoing, a little, excited. Bring some stuff for them, coloring books, phones, tablets, whatever you got to do. But you got to make sure that they are handled. And don't put that responsibility on the church, because the church is looking at you, that these are your kids. But it also says manage his own household, manage their own household. In other words, do you have a grip on your own house? Not so much your kids, but on the other side, your own house. Are they about to put you out every week? Are you about to get evicted every week? Do you have trouble every time we turn around? There's an issue. You can't come this time because you didn't put gas in the car. And you don't have any money for gas. You knew you had to go to work, but you just decided that you're going to believe God and miraculously gas is going to come in. Or you didn't pay your car notes. They repossess your car. You're not paying your rent. They're about to put you out. On top of that, you come home and your child ate the TV remote control. Now you got to take them to the emergency room. It's like every time we turn around, it's something going on. You need to manage your house first before you try to come in the house of God. I see too many people who want to get into a position of leadership, but they don't even have a grip on their own house yet. You got all kind of chaos stuff going on in your own house, and you need to sweep that first. Then if you have a label of stability, not saying you're not going to go through storms. Every now and then you're going to have some tight bills to pay, but it shouldn't be every time we turn around there's a crisis going on. You're not ready for it. If that is the case, then you're not ready for this level, because ministry is demanding. And if you can barely get by managing your own house, managing your own kids, we don't want you to manage the house of God because you're not ready. So you have to put things in perspective. Get your job in order. If they fired you from your job and you can't hold down a job, but you want to preach, no, you're out of order. Get your house in order first. Get your kids in order first. Have some level of stability first. Then come in and serve, because you cannot effectively serve correctly if you got all this chaos going on in your house. So you have to manage your household properly, okay? And your kids have to respect you. If you are a single person and you have a lot of kids, and you get somebody to help you then, if you're still serving, get somebody to help you. But your kids in your house shouldn't be chaotic and you're trying to do this. I understand people in different situations. If there's an issue like that, come to me, come to one of the leaders, express what's going on. But don't let this scripture, which we have seen in churches over and over and over and over and over and over again, where people will jump into a position of leadership in the church, but their house is just falling apart. Okay? Get your house in order. I cannot emphasize that enough. Okay? Again, verse 5 says, if anyone does not know how to manage his own family, his own house, how can he take care of the house of God? You can't do it. You're unequally yoked in the terms of leadership. Verse 6, he must not be a recent convert. Okay? He must not, or he may be conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. Okay, when it comes to newness, here's one of the things we do when it comes to labors. You may be a new convert, and you have the desire to help, which is honorable. Please know, I want to say this respectfully, please know that you need to recognize the time to be silent and the time to speak. If you're a recent person and you want to help and serve, one of the best things for you to do is serve somewhere behind the scenes. Do not serve up front because you're not ready. Serve somewhere, maybe with an usher or a greeter or sound, somewhere where you're not so much involved with a lot of people because you're not ready yet. You still need to, you're still learning the word. Come to church, get the teachings. You're still serving, but don't be in front of people yet because it's not time. But I'm going to go back to verse 6. He must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited. Sometimes Satan can trick people. I've seen it over and over again. He tricked them and thinking that they're hearing from God, and they haven't really developed. I'm not saying they can't hear from God, but a lot of times people think they're hearing from God, but it's a spirit of error because they're still new. And they can swear up and down, it's God, it's God, it's God. At the time of this video, I've been doing ministry for 17 years. And I still had to check and see if it's really God, because a lot of things sound like God, but it's actually not. It's actually either me, Satan, circumstances, and sometimes it's God. But even Abraham, the man of faith, only had 5 times where God spoke to him. Out of his whole life, only 5 times. But you get new converts who think that God is speaking to them every weekend. And I've seen people get off and get out there because they said God told them this, and it wasn't God. So we have classes to help sharpen your ability. But do your part by recognizing the time to speak and the time to be silent. And for most of us, especially if you're just now coming in and you really don't recognize the church and how the structure is, you need to take this year of serving in labors and have the time to be silent. Just be there, show up, do your job, do your task, help with the ministry. Don't try to come out there correcting people or doing this or speaking over people and trying to prophesy and try to lay hands. That's not the time. It's the time to be silent and just learn and just sit still and get instilled and help with your area of where you're serving at. Too many people say, because I got a call and I recognize callings, they jump out there too fast and they're not respecting time to be silent and the time to speak. They're just going out there and trying to have the time to speak, and it's not time. So he says they must not be a recent convert. So what we do, we let you go through the classes, and then you serve for that first year for labors, and you make sure you complete all the requirements before you can advance. We're not just throwing people in leadership. You have to serve first, okay? And be tested, which is a final exam on the test that you will see. Verse 7, He must also have a good reputation with outsiders. If we were to ask people who know you outside the church, what would they say? If we was to Facebook somebody or social media somebody and just ask, what do you think of this person? Are they going to be like, oh, no, don't put them in there because they just got through doing this, or what kind of reputation do you have with outsiders? If we was to ask your family, will they feel as though that they are under pressure to say the right thing because you're behind the scene, with your fist balled up talking about you better say it right? Or do they genuinely say, you need somebody like this because they are really going to help? You must have a good reputation with outsiders, people on your job, people in your community, people outside of the church that know you when you take off your church face. You need a good reputation with people like that. If we look on your social media page, what are we going to see? Are we going to see you smoking and drinking and cussing? Going back and forth in an argument with somebody else? Are you reliable? Do you have a good reputation? Do you walk in love? Too many Christians out there, they try to just, be the defenders of the faith, and they look just like the world, but they don't know that. So you have to have balance. They must have a good reputation with the outsiders so that they will not fall into the disgrace, into the devil's trap. You can disgrace the whole church by your character because you got to say it like it is and tell people how you feel, and you don't know how to eat humble pie. Deacons, likewise, are men worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, not pursuing dishonest gain. They must keep hold of the deep truths of faith with a clear conscience. Are you a word person? Are you religious, or are you a person of the word? Do you got a whole lot of man-made, handed down things from your old church that has nothing to do with the word? Or are you a student of the word? Because Foundation of the World Church is a word church. And so we really don't look at, because you came from such and such church and you was a bishop of this and you're evangelist this. Some of that stuff is just handed down religion. And so we need to see, are you a word person? Do you believe the word? Or do you just want to just respond religiously? Everything cannot be solved with a shout and a dance. But praise and worship and shouting is biblical. But we look at character, fruit of the word, instead of just the religious way of responding, okay? Some people may come with a religious spirit because their old church, you did it like this. And you want to bring that same character over here. Well, if it doesn't line up with the word, line up with what the vision of the church is, it's not going to fit. And sometimes you have to unlearn a lot of things when you come over here. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to make sure that we have the right perspective in everything we're doing. All right? They must keep hold of the truth with sincere conscience. They must first be tested. After these leadership orientation classes, you will start to take your labors classes, okay? So leadership orientation has its own little quiz to it, but the labors classes, which is about 10 classes, after each class has their own test to them. You got to take that test. We want to make sure that you really listen to those classes. Are you taking notes? Are you just skipping past it? And it's on an honesty basis. Don't just skip past these videos and try to blow through them. No, listen to them. The whole thing. And then take the test for each class. Learn from them. Take all the time you need. Don't rush through it. And then make sure that character is developed in you. After each class, pray over it, that you can produce that kind of fruit. Because those 10 classes are leadership development. It helps set the foundation of how you serve properly at the Foundation of the World Church. Can't speak for every other church, but for this church, those 10 classes are vital to get started. So when it says they must first be tested, you can test people in a lot of ways. You can watch them for 2 or 3 years. You can give them some tasks and see if they pass it. You can do this, but our standards is what the Holy Spirit has given us is you send people through these classes and you test them on those classes. Make sure that they do that in the proper time. And afterwards, give them the opportunity to serve for a year. So you don't just come into church and just say, I'm serving here. Not unless you take those classes and get that certificate and get that quote-unquote ordination that says you are an official labor, then you start that process. But you got to be tested first. And those tests are no joke. So that's why we tell people to pace yourself, take your time. But that is our criteria for this church, is we're going to test you. Literally, we're going to test you and see if you got the material from those classes. From this leadership orientation, you're going to have a little quiz, a little test, just to see that you really do the right thing. After you complete the leadership orientation, we want you to respond a certain way that I'm not going to tell you yet. But we want you to respond the right way to let us know that you have done this the right way. Okay? And so it says, and then it talks about their wives must be women of worthy respect, not malicious talkers and temperament, and trustworthy in everything. In other words, your family, your spouse, make sure they're on one accord with you. If you are married to an unbeliever, then that's different. You may be the spiritual giant for your house, but when it comes to your both of you all are believers and you're serving, just make sure you're in one accord with your spouse, that you have a responsibility for the church. You have a responsibility for your house too, because I'm the same way. But you have a responsibility for your church. And just make sure your spouse knows that. Don't let the church come in between. If you all are having problems, talk to somebody. But at the same time, if you do have to step away, do it the right way. Don't just step away and say, this ain't for me. There's a proper way to do everything. And sometimes you may need a break just to work on your family a little bit and come back. But just make sure that you all are on one accord. Again, if you're married to an unbeliever, then you do what you can do with that situation. But at the same time, don't just throw away your ministry serving because of your problems at home. Talk to somebody. Communicate. Let us reason and develop some kind of schedule so we can kind of work it out and modify a few things. We don't want to put a lot of burden on you where, that is destroying the house, because some of you all need to serve in the house of God to keep that covering over your house so that things can go well with you. You need to put your hands on the kingdom project. And for most of you, this is the kingdom project. And so you don't want to sacrifice this, because now you probably won't have any, I'm going to use this word loosely, you don't have any real covering for your house because you're not serving in the house of God. I'm using balance on that, but you should understand what I'm trying to say is that not that we're just superstitious, it's just that by you helping God's house, God helps your house. And sometimes you don't want to just stop everything. You want to communicate and see if we can kind of come to common ground, okay? And I think that's all I have with this. Let me read this. Yeah, that's just about it. Come talk to me if you have any questions. I'm not hard to find. I do have a family, and I do have a church. And on top of that, my personality is a little bit introverted. Okay, so I'm probably not a talkative person. Most times I probably won't come to you. Not that I'm all too busy. It's just every now and then you may need to see if you can contact me. However, sometimes I got to be honest with you. I do spend my time in prayer. I spend my time with my family and my off days, because at this time in this video, I'm still working at a full-time job. So my off days are very precious to me. So I don't spend a lot of time on my off days talking on the phone to anybody. I'm usually hanging out with my family, or I'm hanging out with God, or I'm just, relaxing. So don't get offended if I'm not responding as quickly as you like, or spending hours on the phone talking to you, because I don't have that kind of time to waste at this particular time in my life because of all of the other things I'm doing. A lot of my counseling is on a Sunday morning or when I'm teaching, but you want to make sure you have the right motives when it comes to serving, that you don't think, well, let me get closer to you so I have more of your time. Most of the time, you probably won't. I will make time for people, And I'm not so important that I can't be touched. It's just that I don't have a lot of open time where I'm just doing nothing. Most of my time, even on my off days, I'm spent preparing for the church. I'm hanging out with my family. I have other things that I'm doing outside of work and outside of church. And so that's why I put people in place, leadership, so that if you can't get to me, you can get to them. But I'd want you to gain perspective on who I am, personality. I am an introvert. I can be extroverted, I would say, but I'm really a quiet person, and I kind of like not stick to myself. I just I respect my timing, and a lot of people over the years have tried to take advantage of my timing because of the seat that I sit in. But I just like to tell people up front, if you're looking for somebody who's just always going to pat you on the head and chase after you and see if we can always hang out, I'm probably not that person. I do hang out, but I'm not a person that does it quite often. Every time you turn around, let's all hang out. I love hanging out, but I also love my time with myself and with God and my family. And I do ask people to respect that, because I'm a person just like you, and I have time management just like you, and I don't have, some of you all may have more time, leisure time, because some of the things you do, more than me, but I don't have a whole lot. And I love the time that when I'm free to relax, because I'm better when I relax. I'm better for you all when I'm relaxed. Okay? That's all I want to talk about in this particular video. In the next 2 videos you're going to see, I'm going to explain the Leadership Orientation Manual. Make sure you get it. You can see it on thefoundedworld.org. You can download the manual. You can get a hard copy. We're going to go through that manual, and then I want you all to be able to, ask questions and get an understanding. But before you take these classes, the labors classes, you have to complete these leadership orientation classes, okay? I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. If you have any questions, please just contact me or contact somebody who's over this department, okay? Talk to you soon.